Welcome. I am Shanda Masta. I'm the chair of the Olympic Peninsula Progressives. The Olympic Peninsula Progressives are, or OPP, you're down with OPP. We are an organic group that rose out of Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential run and political revolution. Just a quick thank you to everybody who traveled from all points on the Olympic Peninsula to get here. Groups like Our Revolution, Grace Harbor, Jefferson County Democrats, Our Revolution Jefferson County, and Jefferson County Progressives. We are here in support of progressive candidates like Jennifer G.B. Ferguson, who is on her way. She should be here very shortly. We're hoping she's en route from Tacoma. Tyler Vega and Ryan McAllister, and numerous other progressive races and PCO candidates. They're out here, they're in the crowd. Hopefully your name tag says PCO if you're running for PCO. These candidates represent our progressive platform, such as universal health, tuition-free college, money out of politics, living wages, and affordable housing, just to name a few. But most of all, we send these candidates forward with a loud and clear message that we, the American people, are done with big corporations, we are done with big oil, and we are done with banks that are too big to fail. We demand change for the working class. So we're going to get moving. Let's see, we're going to do a Q&A after each session. You got little cards you can write your questions on. You can turn them into the back, or you can turn them into a tree, and we'll give them to the candidates. So first, I would like to introduce Linda Sutton. She's a core member of the Jefferson County Progressives. She's a PCO, Precinct 104, 50 years plus in the Democratic Party. She is an activist and organizer. She led the Bernie campaign on the Olympic Peninsula, and she was part of the Rules Committee in Philadelphia 2 years ago today. Thank you.
My official position here is as mother of Cody, who's over here with Christina. I am introducing our wonderful candidate for 3rd District Commissioner, Ryan McAllister. He has an excellent background in public safety. He spent the last 10 years as a firefighter, as an EMT, emergency tech in the hospitals locally, and has a really strong background in terms of understanding what it entails to be a county commissioner. You know, he's been going to the meetings, he's been to them for about 2 years now, and he was brought in. He's one of these wonderful, wonderful millennials who was brought in by Bernie. You know, there was like so many thousands of people who were activated and coming into the party because of Bernie, and here he is. And Bernie said, run. So here he's running, and he has to leave right after this to go to work. So if you have any questions for him, maybe you should do it right away.
Thanks, Linda. All right. So like Linda said, my name is Ryan McAllister, and I am running for County Commissioner for District 3. So we are in District 3 right now, so welcome. Before I get started about, telling you about me, I just want to know who I'm talking to and see where everyone's from. So Jefferson County, raise your hand. All right. I think we may be represented here. Colton County, Grays, and anyone outside of those?
Grace Harbor.
I said Grays, yeah.
Yeah, right here.
Okay. All right, Jefferson County. Well, again, thank you all for coming. I appreciate the support. We all need to do what we can to support progressive candidates. You know, I hear that this 2018 is going to be a blue wave. I consider it a progressive wave for sure. I mean, we're seeing nationwide first-time office runners like me, so it's inspiring. I hope that I'm able to inspire, first-time office runners. It's huge. It's stressful. It's intimidating. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. If you have something to say and you think you can represent your precinct, your district, your county, your state, your district, then you should do it. So I want to tell you how I came to be addressing you now. In 2016, I caucused for Bernie Sanders right here in this building. This was my precinct, so it's kind of it's really cool to be standing here now. So my wife and I were the two youngest, people in this building caucusing for Bernie Sanders. So, the older folks, they said, okay, you don't have a choice, you're going to be our delegate. And I said, well, okay. And then I went home and Googled what a delegate is and what they do. Because I had no idea. They were telling me, well, you get to go out to the national convention and all of that, and it's all paid for, so don't worry about it, which didn't turn out to be true. So yeah, I went home, figured out what a delegate did, and kind of continued on from there. I started hooking up with Linda Sutton and the people that were already working for Bernie's campaign. So I got hooked up with Jefferson County for Bernie Sanders, and we had our county convention. And again, you get 2 minutes as a delegate to say everything you need to say, and sometimes just 1 minute. And so you try to blurt it all out at once. And so I kept moving on from the county convention to the legislative convention, and then finally the state convention. And I got elected national delegate for Bernie Sanders. So, thank you. So, as it turns out, your way as a delegate is not paid for, and it was really expensive to try to get out to Philadelphia. So I did fundraising, and there was a lot of amazing people that turned out and said, you need to be there, and you need to represent the millennials at the convention, and you need to represent Bernie Sanders. So out to Philadelphia I went, and there's several people in this room that were there as well, either on the inside or out on the streets protesting and making their voices heard. Which I feel like you guys had a rougher time. I mean, it was totally a rough time completely. So Philadelphia happened, the DNC happened, and a lot of people chose to leave the party after that, which I don't blame them. I mean, we were wronged in a lot of cases. And I'm hoping that the Democratic Party will learn from that. I'm seeing some, but not a lot. It takes us continuing to be in the Democratic Party. So it's all about Dem enter, So we came back from Philadelphia, and I ran to be a state committeeman, and I got elected. So a state committeeman represents their county's Democrats at the state level. And so Washington State Central Committee was replaced 70%. Those were all new people that came in. Most of them Bernie supporters on the state Central Committee. And those people, myself included, we got to vote in the Washington State chair. And then in another 2 years, we get to vote in new DNC members. So you see how we can change things on the inside, and that's the whole strategy. It's an inside-outside strategy. So that's kind of my strategy, is staying in the Democratic Party and making the party what we want it to be, reflective of what we want to see. So I encourage you, reorg is coming up in December. PCOs are running now, and they're going to be the ones deciding on who is the chair of the county party and the central committee, your state committee women and committeemen. So I challenge you to look into that position and run if there's already not progressive doing so. Okay, so I will go into why I decided to run for county commissioner. So, when we got back from Philly, I took Bernie's message to heart. He said, no matter even if I got elected, this country still needs young people to step up. From anywhere from PCO, dog catcher, just run for office, get out there, get involved. And I really took that to heart. Started going to county meetings and realizing that I was the youngest person there by about 30 years. And that being reflective of Jefferson County and there being nothing for families, no real living wage jobs in the area, no real growth that young people can attach to. I say that Jefferson County's biggest export is young people, which was real unfortunate, and it happens to be true. There's not a lot holding us here. It's very hard to live and work here. I know Clallam is a little bit easier out there. You guys do have growth and have more jobs. But rent is a problem nationwide that we're seeing in all counties. So the decision to run for county commissioner was a tough one, and I struggled with it for about a year. It was on my heart, and we still had a Democratic incumbent, and we didn't know what she was going to do. So, you know, I knew it was really bad form if you're a Democrat to run against a Democratic incumbent. That's kind of the way the party is, or has been, or always was. So it took about another 6 months for me to realize that just because there's an incumbent in there, that's not a good enough reason for me not to run, because the feeling wasn't going away. The motivation that I felt that I could represent my district, that wasn't leaving me. And it was a decision that I came to with my wife, and we just couldn't find a good enough reason for me not to run. So I decided. I started early. I was the first announced candidate. I knew I had to get out there early. I knew that I had the support, but that it would be another kind of split in the Democratic Party. And that was something I was worried about too, because you know, not everyone that has been in the party for years that are called establishment or status quo, they're not all bad. These are good people that in their eyes is good work, that they're doing good work. But change is hard on people, and I didn't want to be a source of contention, and I knew it would end up that way. So yeah, I decided to run. I announced early, announced first, and started gaining support. Continued going to these county meetings, learning everything I could, and it's been definitely a learning process. I'm 30 years old, never really been politically active. Politics wasn't something that my family was into, but I jumped in. You know, I kind of equate it to firefighting. You just kind of go in head first and try to stay above water. I'm a former firefighter in EMT, and you kind of learn as you go, really. So I challenge everyone here to stay involved. You know, when it's tough, and politics is tough, a lot of times it's not fun, but it can be, especially when you're amongst people like this. Do what you can. Try not to take everything so personally. Expect good from people. I know that's hard sometimes, especially, I mean, in our party, there's definitely a split. It's almost come to blows sometimes. It's been that bad. And I know Clallam County has had their own problems. But we're all trying to do good for our county, good for our state, good for our country. And I think just listening to one another, that face-to-face is what counts. You know, we're always on social media. It's really hard to transfer emotion and intent when it's just all text. So I really challenge people when those hard conversations happen, take it to the coffee shop, you know, stop the conversation and try to interact with that person one-on-one. So, you know, I'm kind of rambling up here, but I'm just saying what's on my heart. I'd love to take any questions. Like they said, I do have to go to work. But yeah, any questions you guys have, I'd love to handle them. Mr. Tompkins.
I've got one question. I've had many discussions with lots of my progressive friends about the need to compromise when necessary. You don't start out by giving up your basic philosophy and your positions, but there are times when you need to back off and make compromises. I just
Sure.
wondered if you're feeling that.
Yeah, so compromise is big in my life because I'm a union contract negotiator for our hospital. So I negotiate contracts on behalf of about 1,000 hospital employees against, you know, big time corporate lawyers. So I don't believe in zero-sum games. You know, I don't have to gain or I don't believe in gaining something and the other side losing, you know. So compromise really fits into the way I see the world. Compromise when and where you can. And most of the time you can find compromise. And when you can't, then you hold on to your values. You hold on to your ideology and, you know, stand fast. But like I said, most of the time, there is compromise and you can't find it. And that's not just across the table for contracts, that's the way it's supposed to work in Congress and the Senate. You know, we're supposed to be working with the people on the other side of the aisle. And that's definitely what I'm doing in my district. We're not a totally blue district like Port Townsend is. Port Townsend is solid blue. But out here in the county, it's kind of conservative. And these are my neighbors. I have to talk to them. I eat breakfast with them. They're my neighbors. So I have no problem with compromise. Rick?
What about affordable housing?
Yeah.
People who are on the street in the third district? I know a lot about it.
Yeah.
What about the third district?
So third district, I would love, so a lot of people are talking about apartment buildings. I grew up in apartment buildings in Southern California. I hate them. They're not dignified, you know everyone's business, you know what your next door neighbor is cooking. So first we have to tackle the infrastructure that will support any kind of additional housing, multifamily housing like that. So down in Brennan where I live, we actually have a sewer system, but right now it's only servicing the state park. But they developed it in a way that the community can tie into it. So we just have to have a local utility district tax. And that's something that I would advocate for as a commissioner. I'm more in favor of small village homes. I've seen some beautiful designs and things that are actually working. And those we can do today because you can have a shared septic system. So I'm more in favor of the small housing villages than just throwing in large apartment buildings. All right. Yes?
I was just wondering if you have met Ann Waldron, she's running for PCO, if you've talked to her at all?
Do you know which precinct? 101.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, she's my neighbor, and everything you're saying,
Yeah.
it just resonates with her.
I haven't met her, no.
Well, I would totally encourage you to get in touch
Okay.
with her. She is running for PCO,
Okay.
and I think a lot of what you're saying is very, very much in line
All right.
with her, so.
All right. I'll come get the information after
Okay.
here. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, I appreciate you listening to me, taking the time to be here, and I will pass it on to the next speaker. Thank you, guys.
I'm Tyler. You'll hear from me later on myself, but I wanted to introduce Franklin. This is my buddy who flew out from the middle of the country to help me on my campaign and to be crew on my ship, actually. And since then, I've got him doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We're about to hire him at Daily Computer Consulting, where I work in the city. And when he got here, I asked him to run, basically on this prime directive of, from Bernie, run at all levels, run progressives at all levels, no matter what, no matter what, no matter what. And with this, I come from a background of arguably privileged background, but I chose to roll on the streets for a long time and have a very keen awareness of the nomadic culture that is arising in the younger generation as a result of the housing crisis, but just of people wanting to live outside the box. And so I asked Franklin to run for a couple of reasons. One of them was just to get involved and because we want to run for all this at all levels, but also because I really believe that nomadic people need a place within the system desperately. One of the things that we need is for all the generations to link arms and figure this system out. And we're not going to pull it off without the younger generations. We're dead in the water. I'm Generation X, the generation of apathy, a survivor of the generation of apathy. And well, we'll get more to that in a little while. But I just wanted to introduce Franklin. He's running in this district, PCO for Gardner 101. And here it is.
So if I could, I'd like to meet Ann, if I
Sure.
could.
I'll write it down. I'll write it down.
So I guess I should, how are we doing on time? How much time we got? Oh, that's a lot of time. Okay, well, I guess I should tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm from Ohio, not originally from here. But I came from a place of very low income when I was younger. And I went to college and worked my way into a really privileged position. And then I got fired for trying to unionize people where I was working at. And then I was trying to do some independent media stuff where I was at, and nobody was really wanting to help me. So I was looking for another place to go. I really wanted a change of scenery, and I found Tyler online, and like he was saying, and came out to be crew on his ship and be active in his campaign, and then I ended up running here. So, you know, I am nomadic right now, and I've been lucky enough most of my life to not have been nomadic. I've been lucky enough to have a place to sleep every night that is safe and warm, comfortable. But here, I know, because I've been out here, I actually have experienced, you know, sleeping beside my car and sleeping on the side of a trail in a park, and, you know, sleeping on Tyler's ship that has very little electricity, no running water, you know, not functioning bathroom facilities, and, you know, having to make the trek out to the ship with anything that you need, and making the venture back to the shore with what you need for the day, unless you want to make it all the way back. So, you know, I have an interesting perspective, I guess, to lend, being that I've been on, I think, both sides of being nomadic and not nomadic. And I do think it's important to have both of those perspectives. But I don't know Ann. I don't know her, what she stands for, platform, whatever. And so, but I would like to meet her. I don't know if you guys have any. I mean, basically, I'm a burner. My platform is pretty much Bernie Sanders' platform, except for I think I agree more with Jill Stein and the Green Party on abolishing student debt and making a clean slate, you know, for most of the younger generation, such as myself. It's I was making, you know, in Portsmouth, Ohio, where I was, the standard of living out there was fairly low for the United States, and I was making pretty good money out there, and I don't think I was doing anything particularly crazy. You know, I wasn't buying fancy new cars. Like I didn't have a new car. I wasn't living, and I didn't try to buy a big house. You know. So pause for family. It's all good. So I bought all of my vehicles used. You know, I was living in, you know, my sister's old house that she just let me pay the mortgage on, you know, and I was still struggling, you know, in a low standard of living area, making good money in that area. So it just goes to show you how much of a struggle it is nowadays for my generation to even get anywhere of consequence. You know, I wasn't going out to eat every night. You know, I wasn't for every single meal. And I knew people that were digging themselves into a huge hole, you know, going out to eat for every meal, every day. And, you know, getting these super expensive cars and buying these super expensive homes, you know. And I wasn't doing it. And so, do you guys have any questions for me? Or do you just want me to ramble some more? Yes, ma'am.
I think it's really important, if you do nothing else, is just to speak about your condition, talk about your generation, let people keep hearing it over and over again, because every generation is experiencing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
There's also a huge effort to keep us separate from each other.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole thing about baby boomers did this, the generation
Yeah.
X did all
Well,
that.
that narrative is the same, throughout history. Oh, this generation before us just made everything horrible, and then, oh, well, the generation in front of us, they're just lazy and, making everything. But, I mean, it's trying to look, it's like psychology and sociology. I mean, everyone is different. They are individuals, but there are trends between generations, within generations and between generations. And it's, I like to say, it's not, try not to stereotype, but you can kind of generalize, if that makes any sense. There are some things you can kind of generalize, and there are some things you shouldn't stereotype, which is kind of the same, but a little, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of contact with different generations and a lot of contact, of course, with people in my generation. And I mean, the stereotype about us being lazy and not wanting to work, I don't think is very true. I think what my generation is tired of is working 4 jobs at minimum wage and then not getting any. I mean, if you look at minimum wage throughout, the 20th century and even, the 21st century, and how it looks, it's not even like it's linear with very small growth. But if you look at corporate profits, it's exponential. So minimum wage is not keeping up with corporate profits. So all the money just keeps getting pushed to the top. So then it's forcing everybody to have to, sacrifice someone. And we're sacrificing, our generation is sacrificing because the jobs that we're given in the gig economy, the gig economy is a big thing now, very unstable job situations, and the pay is still low. Oh, questions? You had your hand up. Were you with it?
Even though I'm not in precinct 101, one thing we haven't discussed, and I think it's probably more important to the residents of the precinct, is how are you going to deal with the issues within the precinct? How are you going to act as PCO? What do you think your responsibility?
Well, first and foremost, the responsibility of any representative is to listen to his or her constituents. So whatever concerns and problems that the constituency has, you're the point of contact for them for the rest of the party. So whatever concerns that the precinct has, I'm all about transparency. I got my full name on there, Franklin Joseph Cortez Wall-Brown. Y'all can Google me, look me up. You can ask me whatever you want, and I'll try to answer your questions as well as I can. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the number one, to listen to your constituency and actually do what they want you to do. So, and I'm if I were to get elected, I want everybody to be a watchdog for me, to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Fritz?
Yeah, James Fritz. When I first came to Seattle about 1962, anybody could buy a house.
Right.
A ditch digger could afford to buy a house.
Right.
You could afford to buy a house, buy a car every 3rd year, put money in the bank, send your children to college. And
One breadwinner. Right?
One breadwinner.
One
Exactly.
breadwinner.
But what happened was financial service. We became a financial service economy about 1982 under Ronald Reagan. We started manufacturing money, and
Yeah.
people on wages and salaries can't compete with people that manufacture money. So now it's off to the races. The average house in Bellevue, Leavenworth, and Seattle now is over $700,000.
Right.
People make $15 an hour.
Yeah, how do you afford it?
Can't even afford to rent an apartment. And this.
Even where I come from, even in Ohio, I mean, even if you work one full-time job at $15 an hour, you still, most of the time, can't find a place that's under a third of, like, less than a third of your income,
Yes.
you know, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. That's because housing has become a vehicle of speculation for Wall Street.
Right.
So we became a financial service economy, and now we're paying the price. We have a $500 billion trade deficit, but because Germany chose to be a manufacturing country and invest in manufacturing, we chose to invest in shopping centers and apartment houses.
Shipping jobs overseas. Yeah. So, when did that?
We're going to have one more speaker, and then we're going to have you and the others form a panel for the rest of the questions. Are you able to stay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And we envisioned originally Ryan being part of that, but since he left, so we'll have you back in just a minute. Okay, wherever you like. Okay. So I'm Tree, and I'm with the Peninsula Progressives, and so I just want to introduce our next speaker, who's come all the way from Grays Harbor. So a few of us have had the chance to meet her, but most of the people here haven't had that chance. She's a nurse, an RN, a mother of 6. She's the founder of Our Revolution, Democracy Rising in Grays Harbor. And this is the banner that she brought up here from their group. And she's running for PCO down at Grays Harbor. And she is also on the executive board of Grays Harbor Democratic Party. So we are anxiously wanting to hear your perspective of how things are going in Grays Harbor and what you can teach us. So this is Mariana Hopkins Everson.
She makes it sound so glamorous, like just not, holding a bunch of meetings and bringing a bunch of sandwiches and things. How I feel about it sometimes. Yeah. Okay, so what's going on in Grays Harbor? Well, we are pretty progressive in Grays Harbor. I was very happy to find a lot of the people who had been at our county convention in 2016. I'd like to find more. We're trying to build numbers, but it's the same. I think probably you guys are finding the same 25 people going to this meeting and that meeting, and you see them at this meeting. But the cool thing is that the people who were already progressives, who knew they were progressives before I did, they held the space open. They had a meeting every month for the ACLU. They started the Grays Harbor Institute and had, progressive speakers come. They fought off oil trains in Grays Harbor. We're not going to have oil trains, at least for now, in Grays Harbor, so that is not good. So I was lucky enough that they liked me, and I just kind of started saying things like you guys all would say, like all these signs said, and they were like, yeah, and then I'd say the other one, oh yeah. So then I just got really loud, and they're pushable, and so am I. That's the cool thing, is that I listen to them, they listen to me, we all kind of work together. So we saw that, this group is working in environmental stuff, and this group is helping homeless people, and this group is in healthcare, and this group is talking about, so we decided to just be a coalition. We have these things that we're all interested in helping with. We can't all do all of it all of the time. So we just started forming coalitions. So our steering committee for Democracy Rising is a member of the ACLU and a member of the Democratic Party and a member of the Citizens for Clean Harbor, who helped fight off the oil trains, and a member of the Quinault Nation, and a member of, if you get my drift. So we became a coalition of different groups. So that's what I would encourage you all to do, because you're already doing it, but to continue to do is to always be in coalition with people, and you're not always going to agree with them. Just, for example, I read this morning that the Indivisible Ocean Shores Group endorsed Stuart Kilmer, which I wouldn't have done in a million years, but that's their journey, and they got tons of signatures for I-1600, so, you know, I'm not mad at them or anything, but I wouldn't have done that, so. Anyway, so the way that I got all these things that happened in the Democratic Party was I just started to say yes instead of saying no. So they said, we need somebody for the e-board for this district. I'm like, oh, that's my district, I'll do it, you know. And, you know, we need somebody to run for PCO. Oh, that's my district, I'll do it, you know. And I'm not very good at saying no, I guess. But I do say no, you know, I can't do everything. Another exciting thing that I would like to share with you guys is that we got very fired up about the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival. My husband is here, his name's Brad, he's a veteran and he's wonderful. He was arrested 3 times in Olympia with the Poor People's Campaign. He did the same thing, and I'm really proud of him. I had to be at work most of those days, so I couldn't join in the fun. But they did a great job. And through that, we met, we got closer to Chaplains on the Harbor. Chaplains on the Harbor are basically the Episcopal Church in Grace Harbor County, and that's what Reverend Barber is, an Episcopal bishop. And they're very progressive and very gung-ho on all of this stuff. And we know that Aberdeen has 16,000 people that live there, and 1,000 people in Aberdeen are homeless. So 1 in 16 people in Aberdeen. And most of those are people of the millennial generation. 40, I don't want to say all the numbers because I could get them wrong. But way too many people, young people, are homeless in Grace Harbor. It's the highest rate in the country of young people are homeless. Living on the street, living on somebody's couch, staying at the shelter. 250 kids in Aberdeen schools are homeless and go to food banks. Yes. So that was Reverend Sarah and the Chaplains on the Harbor. That's their place. Their poverty is where they're working, okay, and organizing. And so I'm excited to share with you that we have a new group called Harbor Rising, which is part of Chaplains on the Harbor, Democracy Rising, you know what I'm saying. And we had a pretty cool event on June 16th. The Bishop Curry came to Aberdeen. So he's the bishop that spoke at the royal wedding, you know, a few months ago, and did such a wonderful, you know, he was kind of funny and kept it real. And he came to Aberdeen. And because we knew he was coming, we wanted to do something, you know. So we did a walk through the town and kind of put up signs like you guys have here and said, this is where we could have affordable housing. And this is where we could have a detox center, because we really need to help people in Grace Harbor have detox center. But the city had just passed an ordinance that said that people couldn't sit on the sidewalk or lay down on the sidewalk during the daylight hours. And that was a reaction to a property owner who was going to clear his property of 150 people who were living rough out there by the river. And so the city was like, whoa, we don't want those people to come downtown, so we're going to say you can't sit on the sidewalk or lay on the sidewalk. And we didn't feel that was right. It stands today. We feel that it is against the Constitution of the United States of America. That anybody couldn't just sit, if they needed to rest, they couldn't just sit down in a public space on a sidewalk in a town where they pay taxes, where they live and breathe, raise a family. So we're fighting that. We think that that's unconstitutional, that you can sit or lie. So we're going to keep going with it. We did a campaign for to repeal the ordinance, We had to gather 600 and some signatures, just like any other petition, and turn them in. And out of the 925 signatures that we turned in of registered voters in Aberdeen, they said that 500 of them were invalid. So we just got that news yesterday. So we're going to just try the next thing. Anyway, Harbor Rising is really exciting. We're going to be doing a lot of exciting things together. It's a young bunch of people. Almost everyone's younger than me. They're pretty nice though. They're pretty cool. But that's a difference because usually I'm the youngest one in the room. When I go to the Democrats meetings, I'm 45 and they're more older than me, so I'm in the middle.
Let's go, Matt. Let's go.
So please watch out for Harbor Rising stuff. We're gonna be sharing and sending out emails and doing all kinds of stuff, and I can share with you guys. You can spread it out. We want to have a citizens board for housing. We want to encourage the city to have affordable housing on their plan for the city, because it's not even on the plan. The revitalization plan, it's not even there. So that's where we like to at least have it on the plan. And we're kind of pushing. We're pushing. I'm pushing. I'll be honest with you. We had that vigil or that walk, and we, had the bishops and everybody walking with us, 100 and some people walking through town. And I just walked into the city council member's business and said, "So since you support getting homeless people off the street, do you support affordable housing?" While live streaming. And she was kind of mad. But I think that it's really important, and the only way that we could reach her is that way. If we go to a city council meeting, you can ask questions, but they don't answer you. You can leave them an email, but they don't respond. You can leave them a voicemail, they don't call you back. And so you go to a city council meeting, you use your 3 minutes and say, "This is what I think is wrong," and they don't have to say one thing to you. They don't have to respond at all. So the only way I could get a response is to walk into her business and ask her a question. So I did. Well, sometimes you have to have a pair. You just do. So, any questions about Grace Harbor?
Okay.
Well, I guess we could do it during the panel. Is that best? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You were talking about the ordinance that you're fighting and trying to get repealed that prohibits anybody from sitting or lying on the sidewalk during the day.
Right.
It seems to me that maybe that ordinance is too restrictive, but shouldn't there be some kind of an ordinance that prohibits them from lying or sitting on the sidewalk in a way that blocks access?
Well, that's already an ordinance. That's already
That's a separate one.
Yeah, it's already covered. Like the complaints people are making is they don't want people to basically do bodily functions anywhere where anybody else can see them. So that's already an ordinance. That's already a law. You can't pee or poop or have sex or anything in public. That's already there. So sitting down when you're tired. And here's the other part that kind of irks me is that they have these sidewalk cafes where they have this little partition, right? And then they have these tables there, and people drink beer and wine, which is the business that I walked into, in these little cafes. But if somebody sits outside of that little partition and drinks beer or wine, then they could be ticketed or arrested. But if you have privilege enough to sit inside that little partition, then you're okay. So that's something that kind of irks me. So yes, of course we don't want people to dirty up the street or, people don't want to do that. They actually don't, people who don't have homes don't want to be a trouble to anybody else. They don't want to hurt anybody. They don't want to, they want to be out of sight. Yes, okay, there's a couple of people that don't care anymore because they've been out there so long that they just don't care anymore. But the majority of people who are homeless, they don't want to be homeless, first of all, and they don't want to be any trouble to anybody. But they don't have anywhere else to go, then they might have to be sitting downtown for part of the day. She said, what did the person say when I asked her, are you for affordable housing? And she said, this is not the place for this is not the time for this, I don't want to be on video, I don't want to talk about this is not the place, this is not the place. So she didn't want to talk about it. Well, there was a lot of pressure. I mean, there's 150 people standing outside and I had a cell phone in front of her. I mean, I wasn't showing her, I was showing the wall because she asked not to be taped. But yeah, that's what she said. She still hasn't answered, really. There's been multiple more problems with that, actually. We have a very brave man who's part of Harbor Rising who is protesting the ordinance. He's been sitting on the sidewalk every day for 65 days now. Yeah, his name is Mike Nelson. He's pretty cool. If you look up on Facebook, his Facebook is Blind Justice, because he's blind. He's a blind veteran, lost his sight in Iraq, Brad? Okay, anyway, the Middle East, and he feels that he agrees with we all agree together that this is an unconstitutional ordinance, and so he's been every day on the sidewalk for 65 days. And he was the driving force of the petitioning and that sort of thing. And he was harassed in his home by the police, inside of his home. We've had a few problems in the city of Aberdeen. And I think they think we're a problem. I mean, we're saying, I think we're the first time in Aberdeen or Hoquiam or anywhere in Grace Harbor where we're saying, no, we don't like this. We don't want this. We're not going to put up with this. This is what we want. We don't want you to do this. We want you to do this. And I think that the powers that be in Grace Harbor have always been able to just kind of do whatever they wanted to do instead of having to answer to those people. And so now this is a new movement, right? We're all in this new movement where we want our elected officials to answer to us because that's what their job is, right? They work for us. We don't work for them. So I think that this is very uncomfortable for them to have a group of people that are saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to do this instead, So hopefully the contention between the city and the people, that I'm working with doesn't get horrible, but we do have lawyers on our side. We do have the ACLU watching us and helping us and stuff, so we're not backing down, Anyway.
Great update on Grace Harbor. He always wants to know where Harbor.
Yes, you may stay up here. Just a slight change in our schedule. We have an addition to our schedule that Linda's going to introduce. I wanted to let you know that Gigi is running significantly later than she thought because there had been a medical emergency. She may not get here till closer till 8. So we thought we would add our additional candidate and then Tyler and then have the panel. So just so you know what's going on, it's a little bit of a change in this schedule. So Linda?
Hi.
Hi, well, we have one of our our county prosecutor candidates here, Michael Hawes, who has a significant background. He is the incumbent. And I will let him kind of tell you all of his many, many years of experience in every area of the law because he has significant experience. So, and he is definitely one of the people that I am supporting.
Thank you.
I wasn't really planning on speaking, otherwise I might have brought some clothing that doesn't blind you so badly. So my name is Mike Haas. I'm your county prosecutor. I've been your county prosecutor now for about 3.5 years. I've been an attorney for 30 years. I just hit the 30-year mark last month. I've spent about 15 years in criminal prosecution. 11 years in criminal defense, and then the rest has been spent primarily in civil litigation, both representing the interests of insurance companies, which quite frankly felt like working for Satan. But I got better and went to the other side and could sleep a lot better at night. The prosecutor's office that we have now is probably the most progressive prosecutor's office Jefferson County has ever had. We have doubled the number of people that are graduating from drug court. One of the things that we do well in drug court is we work quite closely with OLICAP. And so everybody that makes it into drug court will eventually get housing. And I think that that is one of the keys to our success, because if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you don't know where you're going to spend the night, how are you able to focus on those higher order things like hoarding substances? So I think we do pretty good there. There's still room for improvement. We've got about 40 people in drug court at any given time. That's hitting our max load, but the need is far greater. One of the things that Sheriff Stanko and I are working on together is trying to figure out a way to get medically assisted treatment inside of the jail, so we can stop that revolving door there. On any given day, we probably have about 50 people in the county jail. That's too many, and that number is up from running about 40 at the start of the year. So, and I think, can't say this for sure, but I suspect that most of it is probably opioid related. And on that note, we just convinced the commissioners on Wednesday to sign off on the national opioid litigation that counties, about 700 counties and other municipal governments have joined in. So I don't think that we're going to see a big chunk of change come into Jefferson County with that once that's finally resolved. And I do believe that eventually it will resolve in favor of municipal governments. But I think that what we're going to see is probably grant monies coming down to help concentrate on drug treatment that we have. So at the same time, while we've been increasing the number of people in our therapeutic course, which also includes mental health court and topside, which is a therapeutic court for kids, the number of sex offenders that we prosecute has more than doubled as well. So we're trying, what we've done is by shifting some of our resources to therapeutic courts, which quite frankly is better for the taxpayer from a financial perspective, it's also enabled us to focus more effort on more serious crimes that actually do occur in our small county. One of the things that we participated in recently, my office, my chief deputy, and Detective Shane Stevenson with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office were instrumental in bringing the net nanny program to Jefferson County. That's a program where undercover officers seek out basically pedophiles, and they are, the scary thing is we made 12 arrests, interrupted one act of molestation that was taking place in Colorado. But out of those 12 arrests that we made, the troubling part for me is that we had 1,000 hits, about 1,000 hits. And so as a parent, that's just scares the bejesus out of me. So we do have some real problems out there. We suspect that we have trafficking going on, human trafficking going on the west end. So even though we are a very idyllic little county in many ways, the Chamber of Commerce does not necessarily like the message that myself and law enforcement has to provide, because it doesn't sell well. I could probably talk forever about the office, but I'd really rather hear your questions if you have questions. Rick?
I'm licensed, board certified pediatrician, and you should multiply what he's saying by 5 or 10 times in terms of what he does, and in terms of what he does personally. He expressed to me a number of children, his own family, and I don't want to talk any more about this, but I can assure you that he is a very open, listening, compassionate person in case you ever get into any kind of trouble. that's enormously admirable and important.
Thank you very much.
Just wondered if your office has worked with any of the three psychologists that Sheriff Stanford has brought on as consultants to work with the mental health of prisoners and to assess what needs to be done to help them.
We don't get into that part of it. We encourage it. We try to find ways to make sure that it can happen. Our office is somewhat limited in terms of how proactive we can be on that end of things, other than providing the best legal advice we can to Sheriff Stanko, saying yes, this is a great idea, and I think we can do this legally. But in terms of the day in, day out handling of psychological needs of people in jail, we don't want to get involved. I'm sure I would make things worse for some of the folks. But we definitely try to encourage that. One of the things that we do well in our drug court and also in our mental health court is we recognize that a lot of people have co-occurring disorders, so they have needs in both substance abuse and mental health. Even though the drug court is primarily for substance abuse issues, we're able to tap into Discovery Behavioral Health and get mental health services there. Mental health court, we're able to tap into the substance abuse providers in the county. But in terms of the actual interaction, our office doesn't actually touch bases with psychologists. Sometimes we will talk to folks to get a better idea for what kind of programming we need to do. For example, when we brought the opioid litigation to Jefferson County, we were very active, being in touch with Dr. Locke, the county health officer, and also with the sheriff's office and Vicki Kirkpatrick from the health department. Other questions?
Can you say something about, I know Sheriff Stanko is really promoting a safe place program like the Peninsula. Are you involved in that in any way? Or could you tell people a little more about that? Because it's really a very progressive.
So actually, I don't know as much about that as I would like to. I believe there is a training that's going to be going on. I think it's next week, right?
It is. It's only for the police department, except for a couple of us that want to help spirit it. But what it means is that any business can agree to be a safe place.
What it means is that any business can agree to be a safe place, and that's it's for LGBTQ, but it's for anybody else. Anybody who's in trouble, and we want to make sure that Indigenous women are included in this kind of thing. And so it's a very positive thing. And the police departments from Port Angeles all the way across the peninsula are all gathering for this session on August 7th, but it's not open to the public yet. There will be an open session shortly after that for all to become involved. And we're going to use the programs that or rather businesses that were willing to sponsor I-522. We did a whole survey back at that time, and we now have some of you may have a poster session we do that includes all the businesses. So we think we have a way of introducing this rather rapidly once it's approved for. What? 522 was the GMO labeling, and if a business was willing to sponsor that publicly, they're probably going to be very willing to do this. And maybe the strategy would be to get a group of these, 12 to 20, and then go to other people and say, look, these people are involved. Don't you want to be part of this?
Thank you. And I actually just got an invitation to the August 7th. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, how are you?
Any other questions? You want the bike? Thank you so much for everybody for coming out.
I think we're going to have one more speaker and then do the panel, so. You got your device rolling. Okay, so I'm up here to interview Tyler Vega, who is running for House of Representatives CD6 against Derek Kilmer, our very own representative. What can I say about Tyler? Almost every person in this room knows Tyler, has met Tyler. I met Tyler a little over 2 years ago when we were both hitting the ground running for change. Tyler was running a street party then, right? You're independent this time around, right? Oh, that's right. He's technically with the Progressive Party. We have a kind of old school Progressive Party here in Washington State many don't know about. We do go to them and get blessings, and I think you have gone and got their blessing, right? So yes, he's running as the Progressive Party. Is it just Progressive Party? Okay. So Tyler is chair of the Washington Burnocrats Coalition, which is a coalition that has reached out and done amazing work. We see this group unite progressives throughout Washington State, not just on this side of the water, but on the other side of the water. Their support of Initiative I-1600 Universal Healthcare was pertinent. We were launching that a year and a half ago with Burnocrats behind us. So that was incredible to come out of the gate with such strong support from the Burnocrats. So I am gonna, without further ado, I'm gonna let Tyler get up here and let him tell you everything that he's fighting for.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll give you the basics first. The Burnocrats were actually a new anti-superdelegate campaign. The whole point was to put pressure on the folks that were the tool by which the 2016 presidential election was rigged. My opponent being one of those. A couple of weeks ago, we had an incredible step in the right direction. I'm of the opinion it's not quite enough, but it's enough that we are going to get the choice of our president if we do it in the first round. So keep your ears to the ground on the situation of superdelegates because it is not solved, but at least it is better. 2016 will be the first time, with one exception in my entire life, that we have the chance of a fairly elected president of the United States of America. The superdelegates were reintroduced in 1982. How old was I? I was 7. So when I was 1, there was a fair election. Since then, there has not been a fair election. So we have a shot at it next year, or 2 years from now, if we can do it in the first round. But apparently, if it goes to the second round, which means that if there is no clear winner, then it's going to go back to a complex set of voting. So I just encourage everybody to get educated about what is really going on there, because it matters, And we have at least 4 strong Democrats who are already gearing up to run. Bernie is going to run again. Cory Booker is going to run. Liz Ward is going to run. And Joe Biden is going to run. So what are the chances that we're going to solve it in the first round? I don't know. I think it's actually slim at this point, and I think that might be what some people are playing for. I've also heard rumors that Hillary will run again. They're not confirmed. Anyway, so that's presidential. That's where this campaign came from. I ended up backing out fairly early to support Mike Coverdale at the time because we had 2 progressives in the race, and with 2 progressives in any race, you are guaranteed to lose. This year, that is not the case from my perspective. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that, but I will tell you that I am the only pro-peace candidate. I am the only pro-Medicare for all candidate, and the list goes on for the things, if you look at the signs around the room, this is what defines a progressive candidate, and I present as that person. The world is changing real fast. Y'all know who Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is, I'm sure. As evidenced by, the world is changing. The question is not if, but when, and are we going to do it in time is really the question. Endangered Species Act is under attack. It's getting real bad up at the top, but as the pressure from that absolutely horrendous leadership drives the people on the ground absolutely batshit crazy, for lack of a better term, that's going to fuel the fire to make the change truth is, I'm preaching to the choir here, everybody in this room has known for decades how desperately we need change. And now, finally, we have the fertile ground, so to speak, in which to make these things happen. So, here we are midway through the primary. Ballots have been on the ground for a week. They're on for another week and a half or something like that. And incredibly, we have a record low turnout for voters. So it's not over. It hasn't even really begun. It's really time for the people to understand on a very deep level what's what's been wrong with this country. And if you look at the current legislation and what has happened in the past, in my lifetime, in our lifetimes, the writing's on the wall. It's real, real clear. And we have people running at all levels. We have people like Alexandria, and then throughout the state, you know, the Bernie-crats have a fine slate of incredible progressives. I'll refrain from naming them all, but just get out and get aware and remember that it's less than 3 degrees of separation to every single person in the state of Washington. And in the third millennium, the information age, the distance between two people is gone. The old rules are gone. You don't have to, you don't have to be famous anymore to win against the number 4 Democrat in the country. All you have to do is say what is in alignment with what the people believe. And guess what? They believe this stuff. You know, the majority of Americans are into this stuff. And just the only thing that's holding us back is the paradigm. It's an old paradigm in which there are this. Everybody's heard it, the duopoly, 2 sides of the same coin. They agree on all the stuff that is really, really important, and they disagree on the stuff that divides us. It's us changing our minds about what is possible and how it can be done, really, is what's going on here. So I'd encourage you to take a breath, but remember that we're only about halfway through this primary, and in Washington State alone, we have the ability to make a huge shift in the next week and a half. And it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take much. The time is right. The people are there. Everything about this situation allows for us to make the shift that we've been trying to make for our entire lives. So with that, we'd like to take questions. Well, I know we're going to do some questions at the panel, but maybe I'll just open the floor up for direct questions right at me for the rest of my 10 minutes.
I'd like you to kind of go through the main positions that you see as your strongest points against Derek Comer, in terms of what you support, which you know that he does not support.
Yeah, I'll just read every sign in the room. Fair trade, not free trade. Honor native. Okay, actually, he's actually really good on that. Equal pay for equal work. Stop police brutality. Protect the park. Yeah. Healthcare is a human right. Support single payer. Treatment, non-incarceration. I mean, okay, I'm not supposed to talk about my opponent. But he asked. He's on the Appropriations Committee. You know, he just voted to expand the military budget by $717 billion, and he's the guy who funnels that in private prisons. Meanwhile, he's doing PR at the private prison. The private prison is on his donor list. Okay, I'm losing my temper. Living wage for all, end all fracking. Yeah, I mean, we're nearly 100% here. But yeah, okay, good. Stop endless war, please. Join the progressive revolution. Water is life. So, what? Ranked choice voting is a great idea. Yeah, I think ranked choice, like the fight for 15 is not enough. It's actually not, RCD is not good enough for what we actually need. And we have the technology. We need, ideally, store runoff voting with online secure blockchain. We'll not go down the rabbit hole on what we need to do to fix our election systems itself. But the question was, what is my platform? And it's literally on the walls around us. And it is exactly, those are all the things I disagree with the indigenous issues. That's more complicated than the simple sign-up. I couldn't say that one of us has a better platform on that. I can only say that he has done great work in that world, in that part of the world. Any other questions from the floor?
Could you explain to some of us who don't know what ranked choice voting is?
Yeah, ranked choice voting, what we have now is called first past the post, which basically, mathematically, statistically speaking, lends itself to a two-party system and basically forces out anybody but the incumbent and the opposing person, and it basically keeps it in a deadlock. And that's what we've had for the entire, basically our entire history as a country, really. Originally, we had multi-seat districts, which actually would be, the real fix would be something like ranked choice or score runoff voting with multi-seat districts. Ranked choice voting specifically is when you have, say, 5 candidates, you would rank them in order, and then they would, and so you, basically the concept is that you don't have to vote for the lesser of two evils. Our big problem in America is that we're obliged to vote for somebody who is pro-war because they are better than the other pro-war candidate. And so you vote for war or vote for war. And as a result, my whole generation said, sorry, I'm out. Just not interested. So ranked choice voting is a step in the direction of fixing that. Score runoff voting is a farther extension of that is mathematically more sound. It's basically the same, but you rank each person. You can do a 0 to 5, and then at the end there's a runoff. And it sounds complicated, but in truth, it's actually really not complicated. And especially with the advent of computers, it's not even a big deal anymore. But what it does is gives you the ability to vote for who you want to, and it's not going to cost you having Trump for president. If you want to vote, you can vote for who you want to and not be risking getting a demagogue at the top.
Has that been introduced anywhere in the state?
Yeah, Maine is using RCV currently, and it has some minor flaws. They are not nearly as significant as the flaws that are systemic in our system, but it is trying to. That's the reason why ranked score runoff voting is not being pushed real hard, especially in various places, is because it doesn't have a precedent where it is being used.
San Francisco.
Is using score runoff or ranked?
Using ranked choice.
Okay, I hadn't heard that.
Mayor's race.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor's race was.
Yeah, so anyway, RCV is big. It's being pushed in Seattle, and it does have that kind of background. It is well known. Again, it is a step in the right direction. It is not the end all be all.
Does anybody know how those are being implemented? Is it paper ballot, machine ballot, and can we use blockchain with this technology? I mean, I can log onto my phone and do everything. I can transfer $1 million on my phone, but I can't vote.
Australia has already got some blockchain stuff in there.
Yeah, for those who don't know what blockchain is a way to securely move information online. The belief that paper ballots and especially by mail voting is the only way to go is really a racket. It's just not the case. We do have the technology, we do have encryption, we do have blockchain, we can do it online, and we have to. We have 6.5 billion people on this planet, and we have to learn how to work together. It's going to take technology to solve the problem.
I think a lot of people will have questions about that. So they think that some people think that it would be dangerous to vote online, that our votes could be changed.
Right.
So explain to people how we could vote without the.
Yeah, well, just for starters, there's those problems that you're worried about are existing right now in our current system, and there are computers counting your votes right now, and those computers are run by proprietary systems that only a few select number of people can see. They are not secure. There's nothing secure about our current system. The only way to make something secure in the world of cyberspace is to get everybody looking at it and get it encrypted to the level that computers can't decode it, and everybody knows that. You get a circle of people, just like how do you keep a person honest? It's a community, a circle of people looking at each other, and everybody gets a view. So you have this scope of understanding. With computers, it's really the same thing. You just have to get enough able programmers to look at the thing and make sure it doesn't have any weaknesses. We have hundreds of thousands of people came together to make Firefox. Hundreds of thousands of people came together to make Wikipedia. All of these things. We have operating systems that are entirely open source, community based. Ubuntu is an operating system as good as Windows that can do all of it, everything. There's no reason why we can't do it. The only thing stopping it is that the powers that be right now want the way it is because it keeps it the way it is. That's the only thing stopping us from having free, fair, transparent, and effective elections. Okay.
Thank you so much, Tyler. We have one more addition for the panel, so for at least a few minutes.
I'm going to introduce a PCO candidate in Jefferson County and in the rural part of the county. My name is Ellen O'Shea. I'm a farmer. I live in the Eagle Mountain district, and we were very happy to find a person who would address the issues of the farming and rural community. And I'd like to introduce Chelsea.
Feels a little anticlimactic now after you guys, but
Welcome.
thank you. So my name's Chelsea. I'm running for PCO in precinct 103. It's Lake Leland, Crocker Lake, and Eagle Mount. so basically, I'm really, what I'm hearing from my neighbors and the people who live in my precinct and my personal beliefs are, I'm really concerned about the environment and keeping it clean, stopping pesticide spraying. We live near a large clear cut that they just blanket with the broadleaf pesticide spray that comes into our property if we want to grow food. It's poisoning us. Same with people who live near rivers. I mean, it's hurting the fish. So I want to focus on stopping any spraying of the roadsides in Jefferson County. Another environmental concern for me is the target firing range. Like, what would that do to our native animals? I mean, let alone it's noisy and people say they don't want it, but I'm concerned about what it's going to do to the flora and the fauna in the area. I'm concerned with bringing affordable housing to Jefferson County, in the fact that my husband and I are trying to build a tiny house. We're trying to live green. We are off grid. We have solar. We have a composting toilet, and the hoops that we've had to jump through to live this way of life is just outrageous. So, exploring what it would look like to have alternative living situations available in Jefferson County is very important to me. Thank you. And of course, healthcare for all. We went out and collected signatures for the I-1600, and when that comes back around, we're going to get out there again. It's very important for myself and the people in my precinct. So my name's Chelsea. If you live in Precinct 103, if you know anyone who lives in Precinct 103, please have them vote for me.
Okay, so Tree?
Tyler, how can we get you elected?
Well, first of all, it's, the campaign it doesn't have to happen this cycle, first of all, but it can. The key is all the old stuff plus the new stuff. Once upon a time you had to door knock and phone bank and mail stuff and get stuff on TV. Now we're in the third millennium, that's gone. It's all about Facebook and Twitter, and the other stuff is almost a supplement. So if a critical mass were to be created at this hour, exactly at this hour, with basically this weekend going through the next week, it wouldn't take much. When Alexandria won, she had basically exactly what I've got. She had a super volunteer print out a bunch of flyers, and she had a video out, and the video went viral, and she won by a pretty strong margin in a low voter turnout election. So it wouldn't take much. It would take probably a dozen people taking it really seriously, and some of them phone banking, some of them ideally social media. And keeping in mind that social media is way more powerful than you think it is. It's because the people who listen to you are the people you know. And so if you take the time to express a post on Facebook and or Twitter, and to the degree of opening an account on a platform that you might not know very well, that changes everything, because these platforms are already designed to suck in all of your contacts in a matter of moments. And so the awareness would spread relatively quickly. The ideas are there. The majority of people in this district do agree on these things. What they don't understand is that the person representing them is not actually representing those ideas. So it would take a shift of people's understanding, both that there is a candidate that does represent those values, and also understanding that the incumbent is not representing those values, and a little bit of focus and a little bit of magic or luck.
We're going to go right back here to Ramsey. I can't see your camera, sorry. Yeah.
Fritz,
yes. James Fritz. Both parties in Jefferson County have all these old fogies that don't need jobs, and the average age, like the Republican Party, is probably 70, and the Democratic Party is probably 60. How can we get young people motivated to go? If you had 20 or 30 young people, you could turn both these parties around. Every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, the Jefferson County Democratic Party, the county commissioners in Jefferson County, anybody can speak for 3 minutes. I go down there every Monday morning, And people that need jobs, young people don't go there. I go there week after week after week. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And if you want to get things done, you gotta squeak a lot. How do you motivate these young people to join more parties?
They're here.
They're in the right direction.
Well, Tyler, you've already, alluded to this problem of apathy and
a lot of our generation, they find it's like an uphill struggle. It's like we're already at this point where we're trying so hard. And part of it's not knowing. We're not been indoctrinated into the game. You know what I mean? With some, your generation giving up, and then it's continued on, right? And we've not been included into the fold. Fritz, you need to grab some of us and just be like, hey, let's go to the commissioner meeting and voice your problems. We have to be. I was inspired by Bernie, by Tyler, and there has to be something that triggers it. And right now, apathy is a disease because it's not, our system doesn't really allow for people to participate well.
So I led a committee into the Democratic Party in Clallam County, and we had a small handful of millennials who were inspired by the Bernie Sanders campaign. By no means were they welcomed into the party. Their opinions don't mean anything. They're wet behind the ears. They're newbies. They don't have a say. Now, when you bring a committee that's supercharged and ready to go to work, we'll work banquets, we'll work the fair. You know how many times I've been up at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive all the way across the state to do something for our Democratic Party. And most of them felt used, they felt abused, they felt like their voices had not been heard at all in the party. And a lot of them left with the whole Dem Access strategy. And I don't advocate for that, but that's what I saw. And I think that the best way that the older generations, I am a generation, what am I? I'm not a baby boomer, I'm an X. Yeah, we're X. So the Generation X and the baby boomers, I think the biggest way that we can help the millennials and the Generation X, or whatever it is now, is YZ, yeah. It is to talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your constituents. You know how many times I've heard that Ryan McAllister, the young man who stood here today, who is an incredible, knowledgeable kid. This guy works the ER, he's smart, he knows what's going on in these districts, he knows what they need, he's out there talking to the people, but he's too young. He doesn't have the experience. I would never vote for him. I'll vote for a Republican before I vote for a millennial. I've heard that come out of people's mouths. It has to come from you guys. Telling your neighbors, telling your friends, let's get behind these kids and support change. They're the ones who need affordable housing. They're the ones who need jobs with living wages. They're the ones who need out from underneath the $60,000 and $70,000 crippling student loan debt. My parents didn't have that. My mom went to school for 4 years, and yeah, she still has student loans, but not $70,000 worth, not like my little brother does. So it starts with you guys. It starts with us saying, okay, we'll step out of the way. Run. We'll get behind you. We will support you. And I see that with you guys get behind Ryan McAllister. So bravo to every single person who understands we got to build these millennials up. Next question?
Oh, that was very moving.
David?
Just got a quick question for Tyler. As you know, David talked to you and I have been emailing back and forth a few times. When you get elected, will you caucus with the Democrats?
Good question.
Yeah, of course. There is no option. There will be a sub-caucus of the far left progressives, Alexandria and whoever else makes it. I like to think that Dorothy Gasquet and Tamara Morelli and Sarah Smith that were elected on the side. Again, you can't do anything without a majority in Congress, and there may be even some people on the right who, on some issues, will caucus, will agree enough that we can effectively caucus. But yeah, generally speaking, I know you're big on compromise, and it's a very long conversation. We've had some long conversations, but compromise is a big thing, and it is the only way towards actual solutions. But you have to get, the analogy is, in my personal micro versus macro experience, is to a relationship where you're trying to solve a problem that you've got that's an ongoing problem in your relationship. You do need to compromise, but first you got to kind of come clean and get fully present to what's really going on. Oftentimes there's something underlying that is not being addressed. And in this case, there is a pretty wide swath of festering wounds beneath the surface that really need to be addressed. And it's about justice and integrity. And once we restore those things, compromise is a lot less painful once you're really taking care of business on almost a spiritual level, but on a societal level, once we're not spending all our time compensating for some really, really dark festering sores, it'll be a lot easier to deal with that kind of thing.
I was asked earlier at the very beginning, what is the difference between a Democrat and a progressive? And I'd like you to kind of think about that, and how would you respond to that question?
You mean
Garrett?
everybody up there?
Who is this question directed to?
Well, I think, anyone that wishes to answer that, because, I kind of said what I thought, and I think maybe you all would like to chime in.
I'm going to let the candidates, because you guys don't want my opinion on this.
Maybe I do.
This is a big question for me. I ran, in 2016 I ran as a Green specifically to differentiate. It was, I was trying to put pressure on a person because of position. The superdelegate issue was my entire platform. Now I'm running with the Progressive Party because I am a progressive. I want the voter, especially the millennials and the X's and Y's and Z's, to be able to look at my name and see what I stand for, see all these signs on the ballot with my name, period. So that's an outreach campaign to those people. But the important thing to remember here is that, all night long we're talking about this idea of coalition building. I am a Democrat, I am a progressive, I am a Bernie-crat. There is no actual separation. It's an illusion. That we're paradigm shifting out of. We run on a team sports mentality, red versus blue. It's like the Seahawks versus the New England Patriots, and it's just not reality. That's not the way that the world really works. It's a false dichotomy, exactly, literally. And all the world is moving towards basically a parliamentary system, and that is ultimately where we're moving to. The duopoly cannot stand it. It is not sustainable. It will fall. So I'm running with the Progressive Party for a bunch of reasons, some of them very internal and some of them very external. We do actually have a model for a three-party system in the United States. It's in Vermont. As a direct result of Bernie Sanders winning his mayoral campaign in the 80s, the Vermont Progressive Party was reborn, originally the party of FDR. And now the party, the Progressive Party of Vermont is, the quotes are for Linda Knighton, the president of the Washington Party, describes it as too small to ignore. So in Vermont state level politics, they have, I think, a dozen or so state legislators, or in the state legislature of the Progressive Party, and they have the governor now is elected member of the Progressive Party. So they have a three-party system that is well functioning, and they do caucus together, progressives and the Democrats, and throughout the state, you'll see on the ground that everybody's in both parties. There's not actually any good reason why you can't be in both parties, unless you're Green. The Greens actually do have some exclusive laws, and that's why one of the reasons I don't run that round. One second, does anybody else want to answer the difference?
Yeah, the difference.
We'll get to you in a second.
I learned this from a friend of mine that's a Democrat, and he calls himself an FDR Democrat. And the way he put it, the difference between a progressive and a Democrat is the same as Tyler. There isn't. If you're going to be a Democrat, like FDR Democrat, you have to be a progressive first. There's no difference. So the difference came, I think, with the birth of the neoliberal Democrat with Bill Clinton taking corporate money and all of that stuff. So I think the Democratic Party moved, and the progressive part of the party, is us rebirthing it now.
I agree, I've always felt that.
I just want to say, I feel the difference really, there isn't a difference. Most people in the Democratic Party call themselves progressive. But for me, what cements it is these planks that we are fighting for. These are progressive change. Fracking is not progressive. War is not progressive. If you call yourself a Democrat and you're supporting these things, are you a progressive? That's the question, so I feel like it's these planks right here.
Anybody else want to tackle them?
Okay, so Fritz.
Yeah, if you look at FDR's Bill of Rights, it's almost identical to what progressive stands for now. Everybody should have a family wage job. Everybody should work at the top level of their skill level. Everybody should have a house. Everybody should have medical care, and so forth. Progressive today, the Democratic Party is taking a big circle. We've come back to what FDR stood for. Bill Clinton destroyed the Democratic Party. A World Trade Organization, NAFTA, most favored nation to China. He had Robert Rubin from Goldman Sachs as the Secretary of Treasury, on and on like that.
Crime bill.
We went astray. The Republican Party had nothing in common with the Republican Party in the 50s and 60s. In the 50s and 60s, my parents were conservative Republicans. In those days, the conservative Republicans stood for a balanced budget, a strong dollar, a trade surplus, the belief government should be as small and non-intrusive as possible, a healthy skepticism of foreign involvement. You couldn't borrow your way to prosperity, and communists were our enemy. George W. Bush did the opposite, every last one of them, and he called himself a passionate conservative. The Republicans today are promoting corporatism, government of corporations, by corporations, for corporations. And the only difference between that and fascism is a strong, charismatic leader like Trump. We should be damn thankful that he's an idiot. If he was as charismatic as Kennedy and looked like Mitt Romney, we'd be in big trouble.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, Shannon just said, opensecrets.com. Don't be afraid to do some research on this. I have been really careful about speaking about my opponent, but he is the funnel by which money goes to one of the most profitable corporate sectors of our country right now, which is private prisons. That's scary stuff. I've just been asked to sit on a panel with the people I just mentioned, with Sarah and Dorothy and Tambourine, specifically regarding the abolishment of ICE. Even apparently ICE themselves want to abolish ICE at this point. And let's just help them. Well, I don't know what more can be said other than that we have the top of our political structure is our system naturally lets the stuff rise to the top. And so as the stuff has risen to the top, that's what we have. And as everybody knows, the conservatives have all three branches of government. And the neoliberals are the only thing, are holding it in place in a way that we can't seem to shake. Well, here we are in a day and age where people are waking up, the information age is alive, and everybody, all ages can get at all the information. You can get to all the information, and so people can only stay asleep by intention now. If you're awake and paying attention, you're gonna notice eventually that Derek sits on the Appropriations Committee and has arms dealers and private prisons on his donor list. You can't escape that fact for very long if you're paying attention. Now, if you look around the country, you'll see people rising at all levels, including those three powerful women for House that I mentioned, and there are many, many others. Right now, we have a golden opportunity. With record low turnout, we can get that entire slate elected right now, and it wouldn't take that much. If this room were to get together and phone bank in just Tacoma for me and Tamborine and Sarah Smith, we would probably get all three of us elected, and that would be 3 members of Congress that would be moving in the correct direction for all of these things. And I'm serious. I mean, Tacoma is gentrification is an issue. They have a huge underserved population. Everybody is fighting to survive down there, and people are pissed, but they don't know what to do. If everybody just believed for a week that we could do it, we could very, very easily send half a dozen progressives to Congress this year. And I mean, what kind of a message would we be sending at that point? Here we go with 6 members going to Congress, but every primary that happens between now and November, just like Alexandria made my campaign viable, then we make every campaign in the country viable. Suddenly, we can look at the possibility of a progressive majority in the House of Representatives. And the House is our voice. This is what happens.
So I have a question for Tyler. I was out at the beach with my 7-month-old grandbaby and my 4-year-old granddaughter teaching her how to swim at our beautiful Lake Crescent out here. Within 3 hours of being there, I heard 5 growlers tear the sky apart. I had a Russian couple next to me asking me, what was that? I had a couple from California ask me, what the hell was that? How will you set yourself apart from where Derek has been so beholden to the military-industrial complex on the Olympic Peninsula? How will you set yourself apart and protect the Olympic Peninsula?
There are no issues on which we are more different. I'm a lifelong peace activist and a lifelong environmental activist, and really care about those things. And that's why I'm in this. I'm in this because the direction we've taken is beyond dangerous, self-destructive, and out of integrity. And it's up to us, we the people, to restore it. And the House of Representatives is our voice in the federal government. That's what it's designed to be. The system of checks and balances can't work without it. So we have to put a voice in our place of the House of Representatives that stands for the things that we believe in. We, the people, agree on peace. We agree on the climate, on the climate issues, on the environmental issues that are so vast and complex. But go to every meeting, everybody agrees. You get a unanimous vote on issues of climate change at every meeting. It's incredible, and that's speaking from a left point of view, but this is becoming true on the right. People really care about the environment, and especially here on the peninsula. Most of us moved here to be on the Olympic Peninsula. As far as the warbirds themselves flying overhead, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, we can't house our people and feed our children properly, but we can afford to put fuel in those jets. Okay, why? Because the current legislature has voted for that to be the case. That's why.
Okay, lots of hands just went up. Lori Chambers is back.
I wanted to be first, just because I wanted to go back to what Tyler said.
Yeah.
Do you have the database? Do you have the lists? I mean, we could put together, I'm sure, a dozen people to make those start doing that phone banking.
I see a coalition building here.
But that's a problem.
It's ready to rock. Everything's set.
It is.
I would just need 1 or 2 people really that want to do it.
Okay.
It's specifically a Pierce County list that was built off of the Bernie list that are all known friendlies and will be, in theory, easy targets. I work 9 to 5, and I have my 2 kids, and I really like time is.
Yes.
The biggest issue for me and for my generation is that we're strapped. I'm flat broke and trying to take care of my children in a good way, struggling to pay my bills, and a lot of people really care and want to get involved, but I don't have the time to sit for even an hour and make phone calls. Just to get my website updated to where it is currently, to my current point of view, took enough time that I was losing sleep and not able to put my children to bed last night. So it's that said, the infrastructure is there. For example, you're asking specifically about phone banking. The list of people and the color coding for it and the call-in number and the people to spearhead that are all sitting just waiting for someone to push the button on it. And if folks are serious about that, then let's talk after this and make it happen. And not just for me, you know, this is my campaign is one facet of a movement here, and you can make calls, especially you know for calling Tacoma. You can make calls for multiple candidates because we don't actually know exactly where all these places are. So you can call and let them know Sarah Smith is in your district. She's awesome, you know, and the sky's the limit because we have great candidates everywhere.
Rick, Dory?
We have to, how do you deal with the fact that George Bush was elected twice? That Bernie, you know, he keeps saying that Trump wasn't elected, well, he was damn near elected. So, I mean, there's a very large group of people in this country who really are not, I don't think, going to be very receptive to what we're talking about.
I guess my belief is that group is not at all the majority. It's actually a minority in a pissed off country. My generation didn't come to the polls in 2016. That's why Trump got elected. They were pissed. We were pissed. You know, we don't have time to get into it, but I led the what's called the Deny 270 campaign, where we knew that if neither candidate got 270, we'd be kicked to the House of Representatives, and we could actually avoid both Trump and Hillary. And we had 4 rogue electors in Washington State, and we knew that. So we actually had a shot, and we tried to get it going for that. But the truth is, even though that coalition had a solution, the rest of the country didn't. We didn't have the visibility to get it going. But if you look at the real numbers, the people who really support Trump, you know, half of them just wanted to change stuff, and that was what they were doing. The other half are actually probably racist bigots. But even that whole chunk is not a huge chunk of the country, because a lot of the country just didn't come out. And so if you break it down farther than just the 50-50 or the 51 that voted for Hillary and the 49 that voted for Trump, you're just missing everybody who's apathetic and done and has been since birth. And so my job, and has always been, since I can remember, was to try and activate that extra piece, the piece that doesn't have a voice. You know, that's why you see people like Franklin sitting here, because he found me in the middle of nowhere on a complete fluke, and we got to talking, and he shows up because he sees a real possibility for change. And believe me, there are so many incredible things that happen as a result of that. And just remember that those people are all over the place, and a lot of them are on the streets living a nomadic culture because they're done with the society. They don't want to live inside the box. But those people are powerful. They're just untold levels of genius, ready to rock everything. Exactly. The great example was the Bernie Sanders movement. You would see stadiums full of genius level people who were just ready to rock, and that's what we're working for.
And Washington is in a great spot.
Yeah.
It's progressive. It has a momentum behind it. You have
Kawama Kashama, my bad. You know, being elected in Seattle, you have the $15 minimum wage being passed. You know, you have recreational marijuana. Washington is in this great position to be able to catalyze the rest of the United States to change. And I mean, that's part of why I came here. So we need to reach out to the people on the streets that are disillusioned and, you know, bring them in to commissioner meetings and tell them to voice their opinions and not be afraid. So I'm trying to help. I've met so many wonderful, vibrant, nomadic, semi-nomadic individuals in this area, and you just have to talk to them and get them to believe that change is possible.
So this wouldn't be a political function if I didn't ask you to get your wallets out. These guys need your help. This stuff doesn't happen for free. It's not cheap. The cost of signs, flyers, even gas to get out there and canvass and knock on doors. I mean, even the smallest $2 donation helps. You know what Bernie said, just, it's up to us to fund these candidates. The corporations, they buy their candidates. Well, guess what? The people, we can get our candidates too. They're sitting up here. So give to Michael Haas and Tyler and both of our PCO candidates. We got signs. And Ryan McAllister, yes, there's bins back in the back on the table. You can leave. There's also, I think, candidate donation forms on the table. Oh, yes, and phone bank, please. We're going to get together and start planning out a phone bank. You watch. We're going to do this.
There was a place to make donations back there. That was just like towards the food. If you want to make a donation to the candidate, give it to them directly, please. And I want to show you, if you would like, there's some signs for our candidates back there. But there's also these that you can put in your window, okay, like if you're driving, it would be on the passenger side in the back so it doesn't obstruct your vision. But we have for Gigi and for Tyler. And there's these reusable sticky things you can put on so that you don't have to use tape on your windows. So feel free to grab some, and if you need more, you can get these at Office Depot. So there's also, whoever has a really good place to put signs, there's some back there, and I know we're sending as many as Grace Harbor needs. And then Gigi may still be on the way. So I don't know if perhaps everybody wants to say some final thoughts.
We got 5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes, and we can start at the end, and we'll work on it.
Thank you again for coming out. Any money that you're going to donate it to Tyler or to Ryan. I'm okay for right now. I'm going out to the general regardless. So make sure you get the money out.
Thanks for being here. She does awesome work. I'm Tyler Vega. I don't know if there's a whole lot more that hasn't been covered, other than it's a pretty special and unique time in history, and a really good time to put in some extra juice. Not so much financially. I mean, money is always helpful, and I am broken, trying real hard to make ends meet. But it's really about energy and vibrance at this point, because the people are there, the ideas are right, and they say no thing is so powerful as that. An idea whose time has come. Well, the time for these ideas has come. Now we just need to catalyze the change. And it's a simple job from the perspective of how hard it has been for all of our lifetimes. It's been impossible for our lifetimes to make any change in really make any change in high-level politics. Now it's possible. So thanks for being here. I know I'm preaching to the choir top to bottom, and I know you're all in it and doing it, and thank you so much for all that you're doing, and a little bit more, especially for the next week and a half. Thanks.
I was just going to say, kind of what we were talking about earlier, grabbing people by the hand, pulling them in, and getting them involved. Please check with your family, your friends, your neighbors, make sure they're voting. We have phone lists of people we can call, but it's really good if you can talk to your brother, talk to your neighbor. Hey, did you vote yet? Just get them out there, get them voting, please.
So, I don't remember what your name was.
Oh, I have a card for you.
Okay, well, I would personally like to apologize to Ann. I don't know if she was interested in coming to this or not. So, I mean, I didn't do my due diligence, I guess, and reach out to Ann to be able to,
She was planning to come here, but she had a personal thing that came up.
Oh.
But I was definitely going to give you her number so the two of you guys could talk, because it's all about being coordinated and being unified in this day and age.
Yeah.
So.
And I also had a question for Chelsea. So you were talking about alternative living situations, and I didn't know if you wanted to, because I also am interested in alternative living situations and how to solve multiple issues with that situation, and if maybe you could expand on your vision for alternative living situations and any facet.
Yeah, I think it just really, it comes down to, at the county level, you know, through the commissioners and through the Department of Health and through the Department of Community Development, coming up with ways that that they can understand what it means, you know, to live this alternative lifestyle. We had the health department come out. They assumed that we were like dumping waste, and they were like, "What are you doing out here?" And we were like, "No, please come look." And they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and they like backed down the driveway and left. But now we're on there. We're doing things legally. We're applying for permits and stuff. But it's just getting the word out. So having more people involved who understand this an alternative lifestyle. We're talking to people about it, helping people understand. Like, who knows what a composting toilet is? Guess what? That's what we've used for the last 2 years. So it's just really getting it out there and trying to talk to the county commissioners and making changes.
Could you elaborate a little on composting toilets?
We're going to talk about
That you have to buy a very expensive toilet, you know?
So we did. My husband and I, we're very new to this type of lifestyle. Like, we moved from the Seattle area a couple of years ago, and we went about a very expensive composting toilet. And then we have some neighbors who have a big yurt. They have they recycle their water. They have composting toilets, and yeah, they recycle their gray water. And they were like, "Oh, come check it out!" And it was a 5-gallon bucket with sawdust. And they made a nice like toilet area on top of it, and you can put sawdust on it, and then when it's done, it goes into a pile that sits, and it has to sit for a certain amount of time before you can like compost your flowers and things like that. But
This is legal?
as of right now, well, they just something did just pass for composting toilets.
Not for individuals. I don't think it's for individuals. I think it's only at a certain county level, like parks and.
So,
at this point.
legal, I'm not sure. Like the health department, when they came out and saw our composting toilet, they were like, "Oh, that's fine, but if this is going to be your permanent residence, you have to get a septic system." So we now have a septic system, even though the composting toilet is completely safe for the environment. But we have to jump through the hoops, and
But that septic system costs you
$18,000.
I just want to bring these things up because that means that most people who are in your situation, no matter who you are.
We were very lucky we had a house that we sold, but how could you possibly, how could somebody my age possibly, if you weren't in our position, how could you?
But it doesn't need to be that way. In Oregon, it's a lot easier than San Juan Island. So we need to get some changes, and you'd be a good example to try to do that with.
And I'm very new to all this. I'm one of those people, if Lori and Linda and Trish and Ellen hadn't like grabbed my husband and I by the hands and been like, "Hey, welcome, come to this progressive party," like, we're learning. So I'm also always wanting to talk to people, figuring out like how can I help make changes, because we're learning.
I want to mention that they're here because of the sign out there at the Gardner Community
Yes,
Center.
my husband was driving on 101
Yeah, he
months
kind of
ago.
just dropped in and said, "Hi, I'm here," and then she said she was here.
Marianne, do you have any last words? Okay, so I really want to thank everyone for coming.